Good afternoon, good morning, depending on which region you're from. We are live. My name is TJ. I'm the lead consultant for the ESI Knowledge Lab, and I'll be your moderator for this special event this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. We are really delighted to have you here. We have lined up a wonderful panel of speakers to be able to share, special insight, because we are talking about female entrepreneurs in the ASEAN region, innovation to tackle marine plastic waste. It's quite a specialized topic, and this is a special ESI episode, a collaboration between the area ESI Knowledge Lab, which stands for Entrepreneurs, Startup Innovation, and as well as the Regional Knowledge Center for Marine Plastic Debris. So it has been a special collaboration, a few months in the making, and we are excited to just present this to you this afternoon. You would have seen the agenda, and in a moment's time, we will just dive straight into really having conversations about speakers. But before that, I would like to invite Mr. Michikazu Kojima, who is a senior advisor at ERIA, to just share with us some opening remarks. Allow me to introduce Kojima-san to you first. Kojima-san is an economist specializing in environmental policies, especially waste management and recycling in Asian countries. He is currently serving as a special advisor on environmental issues at ERIA and leading the Regional Knowledge Center for Marine Plastic Debris. This is the technical partner of the Republic of Korea's mission to ASEAN and on this issue. Since 2015, he has held the researcher Institute of Developing Economies under JETRO. Actively engaged in the field of international cooperation and served as a member of the expert working group on environmentally sound management under the Basel Convention and the Technical Expert Committee for Green Industry Platform by UNIDO. His research has been focusing on waste management and resource circularity from a social science perspective. So Kojima-san, if I could have you to share the opening remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and good morning to our esteemed panelists and all the participants from the ASEAN Plus 3 region and beyond. My name is Michikazu Kojima, a senior advisor to ERIA on environmental issues, leading the Regional Knowledge Center for Marine Plastic Debris. It is an honor to welcome you today to this special webinar. First, allow me to convey my appreciation to ESI Knowledge Lab colleagues for co-hosting this online seminar with my team. My special thanks to Dr. Julia Ayumone Ma-san, Director of Strategy and Partnership of ERIA, Mr. Tia-Jin Oi, for his moderation and facilitation for this webinar entitled Female Entrepreneurs in the ASEAN Region, Innovation to Tackle Marine Plastic Waste. By way of setting the context for the audience, allow me to touch on Regional Knowledge Center for Marine Plastic Debris. This Regional Knowledge Center was established in 2019 by the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, or ERIA, as information clearinghouse for marine plastic debris issues to provide relevant support to the ASEAN Plus 3 member states. According to a research published in 2021, the ASEAN Plus 3 region is estimated to be the source of 64% of the world annual mismanaged plastic waste leaking into the ocean. To address this situation, some of our center's work include awareness raising on the alarming trajectory of marine plastics and the impact on our environment, but also highlight the efforts undertaken by the private sectors to tackle this issue and share their good practices. I believe we can agree that the private sector plays an instrumental role in our collective efforts to put a brake on the current trend of plastic pollution. With its economic leverage, the private sector has the potential to nudge the linear way of plastic consumption and production towards a more circular one. In addition, the private sector's strength has always been to bring out innovative technologies and approaches, as well as prompt behavior and lifestyle changes among the citizens. The further promote positive business practices in the ASEAN Plus region that ensure plastic waste reduction. The Regional Knowledge Center for Marine Plastic Debris launched in 2021 an online space called the Private Sector Platform. The platform has information submitted by private companies operating anywhere in ASEAN Plus 3 countries to showcase their products, services, or technologies contributing to the reduction of plastic waste as well as marine plastic debris. As of today, I am pleased that over 70 business practices contributing to reducing plastic waste are published on our private sector platform, including some are founded and led by female entrepreneurs. In fact, over the course of our work with the private sector, we have encountered many inspiring female entrepreneurs who are leading their business and striving to make environmentally conscious consumer choices possible for our future generation. Today, we have invited 3 of such young pioneers who have devoted their life work to innovative business practices so they can share with us their lessons learned, success stories, as well as challenges that they must have encountered along the way. I'm also pleased to welcome an expert from academia whose research and multi-stakeholder engagement to address plastic waste has rich insights into tackling these issues. I would like to express my appreciation to Ms. Obi Sabrina from Lebrix in Indonesia, Dr. Spachaya Teja Cheche from Refuel Station in Thailand, Mr. Juliana Adam of BGBG Initiative in Malaysia, and Dr. Misuzu Asari from Kyoto University in Japan. I hope that our discussion today will encourage the young generation in the ASEAN Plus 3 region, particularly young girls and women, to consider entrepreneurship in the environmental field as a viable career option. Before I end my remark, I'd like to once again thank our speakers and welcome the audience. Let's learn from each other to improve our respective initiatives and collective efforts to end marine plastic pollution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kojima-san. We will jump straight into the panel discussion shortly where I want to introduce our speakers to you. But before that, for our participants who have joined us, at the bottom of your screen, you will see the Q&A box icon. Please feel free to drop in your questions there. And during the Q&A session towards the end of this event, we will do our utmost best to be able to answer all the questions. Now, this is one of the rare events really, where questions have already started coming in even before our speakers have started speaking. So we are off to a good start, and I would encourage the participants, please feel free to continue to just drop in your questions into the Q&A box. Now, let me just jump straight into our panel discussion where we want to have conversation with our distinguished speakers. I want to first introduce to you, Ms. Obi Sabrina. She's the co-founder and COO of Rebrix in Indonesia. After completing her bachelor's degree in psychology at Atmajaya Catholic University, Obi started her career working in a family business, manufacturing concrete blocks. Her family's business has over 3 decades of experience in building such blocks. And under the tutelage of her father, she absorbed the wisdom regarding manufacturing and distribution. And when it came to the waste problem, especially within the context of Jakarta's plastic waste problem, where we know, there is a lot of waste that are multi-layered, plastic bags, soft plastic waste, etc. She then decided to shift and had the vision of making construction materials from such waste. So in early 2018, with her partner Novita, Ovi started their journey of making recycled bricks. And in November of 2019, they launched their first product and called the company Rebricks. In July last year, Rebricks soft launched its second product, Rebricks Hollow Block. And now, third year in, they have really started finding their own footing in Indonesia's green architecture market. So thank you for joining us, Ovi, in this afternoon session. I want to quickly then move on to our next speaker, our next panelist. She is Suprachaya Tekatuchat, or Anne for short, co-founder of Refuel Station in Thailand. So Anne is a biologist and science communicator. She has been the environmental manager at Mei Fah Luang Foundation, working on ecological service in community forests and value chain of plastic waste at Doi Tong area. It's a royal development project. She co-founded Refuel Station, which is a social enterprise and the first bulk store in Thailand to promote zero waste lifestyle. Refuel Station has been inspiring other entrepreneurs to set up similar bulk stores in Thailand and also other parts of Southeast Asia. Thank you for joining us, Anne. Our third speaker is Ms. Juliana Adams. She is the CEO and founding partner of Biji Biji Initiative, Malaysia's pioneer impact enterprise, pioneer impact-driven enterprise with a mission to provide access to technology and knowledge for all to advance sustainable development. Having a strong passion for sustainability and the creative field, Juliana also co-founded Mereka, an educational technology provider to inspire future change makers. Her journey into impact entrepreneurship started in her first startup, Taboo Enterprise, which was founded on the basis of providing sustainable event management solutions. She is driven to reach out to the masses in building impact and awareness towards sustainable living, because Juliana firmly believes in making change happen through understand the links between behavior, culture, and sustainability. So, she's got a passion to help people realize this and also to nurture growth and a potential in people. She's an Acumen Fellow, part of the inaugural Malaysia cohort, and she was also, in the Prestige Malaysia 2020 Top 40 Under 40. So we are in the midst of really powerful women who really have a passion. And our fourth speaker is Dr. Misuzu Asari, Associate Professor from the Graduate School of Global Environmental Studies in Kyoto University, Japan. Her current special field is in the research of waste management, especially plastic products and related substance flow analysis, disaster waste management, and practical study in small islands. She has been involved in a campaign to raise awareness on 3R, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle, and also looking into promoting 3R Research Network and its related conferences and academic events. One of our other fields is in campus and community sustainability. This includes environmental management systems, SDG-related education, as well as the overall lifestyle in the university and the local community. She even started a publication of environmental report in Kyoto University and maintained the environmental communication. So Dr. Asari, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to go straight into the conversation. And really this afternoon, we want to hear first perhaps from our entrepreneurs. Ladies, for you to embark onto this path, perhaps let me start with Ovi first. for you to embark onto this path, what really inspired you? Because this is quite a traditionally, I guess, male-dominant sector, and we do not see that many female entrepreneurs coming into this part. So, what were your inspirations, in this uncharted territory of plastic waste reduction? Ovi, if you could share your story, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the very fine introduction, TJ. I will try to answer the first question. If you ask me, I don't really deliberately choose to be in this field, but I feel like I am quote unquote destined to be here because I think many of the people who work in this field maybe feels the same way. With me, it started with a very personal interest, like me and my partner Novita, we started to do a more zero waste lifestyle. And then in Indonesia, when we start sorting waste, we will realize that there is certain type of plastic waste that we cannot recycle. And then such as the multi-layered plastic, and then the plastic bags. And then it's such a pity because before I started my zero waste journey, I didn't know that. For example, when we buy a shampoo, right? I bought the refill one because I thought by being that mean we are helping the environment. But turned out to be the refills are not recyclable. We don't have the solution. At least in my country, we don't have the solution yet. And then upon that realization, and then because of our personal interest, and then at that time my partner was pregnant, and then the realization that we are leaving all of this non-valuable plastic waste for our son and daughter is actually hitting us quite hard. So therefore, at that time, it started with a very simple, simple thinking, kind of let's try to do this. Maybe we should try to actually incorporate this waste into a building materials, which is I have a background in it. So yeah, we started that way. It wasn't really a choice, but I think I keep on doing it despite all of the challenges is because everybody wants to live with a cost, for a cost, we are trying to at least know what we are doing is for something.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Coming a cause that came from the heart, from really a personal experience. And what about you? What inspired you to embark on this journey?
I think my answer was quite similar to Ovi, but different path. My background is a researcher. I graduated PhD in biology, and during my study, I spent half a month in the forest and half a month in the city.
Wow.
So I see a very obvious contrast between forest and city life. I still love to have boba drinks, still love to have buffet and stuff. And what I try to do research, I try to conserve the nature. And then I realized most of the environmental problem wasn't caused in the forest itself, but it's caused in the city. So what else should I do to protect the nature? So everyone in the city can be engaged. Everyone in the city can be aware more of the problems. Then I start a refill station with my friends. So it's being an entrepreneur is not in my options. Doing research, collecting data of the bird is totally different from collecting marketing data and all the account stuff that quite took a lot of time for me to learn. But having a store is a kind of communication channel. So I have more room to express my interest, express the problems, and I can point out what else alternative that people can do to help.
Thanks so much. And I like what you say in terms of having the store is an opportunity to reach out to a greater and wider audience. Juliana, how about yourself? Please do share with us.
Thanks, TJ. I think same like Anne as well, being an entrepreneur wasn't an option. And just like what Ovi said, right, it just so happened to be. I'll share with you, my passion has actually always been in helping people and in community development. And this has been ongoing ever since I was a kid. It really gives me purpose to be able to help others achieve their fullest potential and to be able to see them strive to improve their own livelihoods. For me, that is the main drive, or rather the first factor that got me to do what I do. When it comes to tackling the plastic waste issue, I have to honestly say that it is a byproduct of that. As a company in BGBG, our core is in championing environmental sustainability. And essentially, we do this by recreating value in waste. Through this, we get to tackle environmental challenges, and at the same time, it is linked to my passion, which is to generate an alternative income for the underserved. I must agree with what you said, TJ. Like it is easier to have gone with a conventional job. We know all the challenges that comes with running your own organizations, especially a social enterprise or an NGO and things like that. But it's not only in running a sustainable business and making that successful, but it's also in a challenge of being able to sustain yourself financially and mentally as well. I know that there has been times where I felt like maybe it's time for me to move on to a more secure position, get some stability, but I really cannot imagine myself doing any other jobs besides BGBG. I know I won't be able to get the same sense of fulfillment or in the work that I do, because I truly believe in the positive impact that we are bringing to the world. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Juliana. Never easy as an entrepreneur, speaking from personal experience as one myself. Since you had also just covered, in terms of briefly some of those challenges that you face, maybe just let me just carry on this note. You shared a little bit, yeah. But if I could ask you again, how did you overcome the challenges? And for those in our audience who are maybe considering a similar career path, what message of encouragement would you give them? Yeah, perhaps Juliana, can start off with you first.
I guess in terms of challenge, one of the biggest challenges that I've been facing, of course, is in actually explaining what I do to the people. It is a very interesting challenge since the beginning of BGBG to explain the work that we do. There's been so many misconceptions when I try to explain it to the people, even to family members, because I would say social enterprise and they would think charity work. I would say sustainability, and I try to go deeper in explaining what we do with recycling and the community, and they think I collect waste. And the next thing I know, I get messages from family members and friends who've done some spring cleaning and they want to give me their waste items. There's also the common one where people ask, how do we make money, and is it just like CSR stuff? Up to now, I don't think even my family members truly understand what the company does, but they have accepted the explanation where I do good things for the environment and the community. So along the way, there have been naysayers, of course, people who have tried to tell me to get a real job or to seriously think about your future and things like that. I've never really given much thought to it because right from the beginning, I was blessed with family who are supportive of me exploring what's best for myself. And I was just as blessed to have a close circle of friends, my co-founders and colleagues, who are just as driven and I would say rebellious as well in doing things differently. And I guess that's my message that I would like to pass on today also to our audience here today, to be able to surround yourself around people who can lift you up, who can make you better. I believe that the energy that you get from them will be returned and you guys collectively can do wonders. As for the naysayers, ignore them. No, actually I would say don't ignore them completely. Consider their inputs objectively, but always make your own decisions from your heart and don't let them get to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Juliana. And how about yourself? What did they face and how did you overcome them? And of course, your message to the next generation of aspiring entrepreneurs wanting to go into this field.
My first challenges is my family. I think others people might face the same problems. Like we receive a lot of questions like what you do it for, whether you get paid enough or you have other options that easier for life, and like traditional one like being a doctor, being an engineer. But for myself, I just stick with it. So I not try to explain a lot because it doesn't help much. But I like keep doing things what I love, and yeah, stick with it. And nowadays they're quite more understand what I'm doing. And the second thing I would say, the compromise. Like 15 years ago, I like super green, like dark greens. So I would say like I cycling to the university. I have my own bottles. I have my own lunchbox, and people like look at me as a weirdo. Like, you are not compromised with others, spotting out others, and like, okay, you guys are not like eco-friendly, but I am. So I think like that doesn't change anyone. So I think when I grew up, I think like being compromised and being a leader, being adaptive, so everyone can follow you, and you are the leader of stepping like step by step. So stick with it, being compromised, and get a good people around you. That helps.
So I'm hearing some common threads from both Juliana and Anne. I will go to Ovi first before I see whether that train of thought continues. So Ovi, if you could share with us what were some of the challenges that you faced, as well as then how did you overcome them, and more importantly, your words of inspiration.
I think if you ask me like what is the challenges, like some of the challenges, it's like too many to mention. Like the first, of course, the challenge is like comes from your inner circle. They doubt what you do. They doubt what, when you started, they just like doubted. But for some reason, when I started Rebricks, like because I started it with my partner, there's two of us. So there is someone who is quote unquote as crazy as I am. So whenever like other people kind of like criticizing, there's someone else who convinced me that we are not crazy. We can just go and do it. So I'm very grateful about that. We are doing, me personally, we do this together in Rebricks. There's two of us, not only me. Otherwise, maybe I already quit, like, But in Rebricks, like I believe that we believe that challenges is like we are at school and we are learning to go to the next step, to the next level. So in every month, I think every year, there's like maybe 3-4 things like the challenge keep on changing. At the beginning is convincing other that it could work. And then after we launch the product, it's like, how can we sell it? And then after we sell it, we sold our first product. This next challenge would be like, how could we sustain this? How could we sell more, sell more bricks to recycle more waste, to make other people believe that kind. So the challenge never stopped, and we are still facing challenges every day right now. So I think like if I can actually like give like my like what I can share after like 3 years in this field is like, first, just start. Don't doubt yourself. Just start and try if you believe in it. And then like secondly, like I think there is like, you need to be able to balance between being perfectionist or idealist and compromising. Because like, I believe that when you are become a social entrepreneur, it's very important to be idealist and perfectionist, because you need to be perfectionist because what you are trying to do is a good thing. If you are not trying to be, it's very important to be perfectionist in your product or your service, because you need to stick with that focus of like, we want to help people, we want to create impact, the social impact. But in the other side of it, you also need to be able to compromise with things, because like at the end of the day, it's an entrepreneur. You need to sell, otherwise you cannot sustain your company. You need to create money, otherwise you cannot create more impact. So I think it's the lesson that I learned the hard way. And fortunately, there is two of us, so we balance it up. One is too crazy, too idealist. The other one is, we just balance it out. So yeah, finding the right partner also very important, I think. Thank you.
Thanks very much, ladies. I will go to Dr. Asari shortly. Three of you, don't let your conviction waver. in the face of naysayers. Don't doubt your conviction. Two, surround yourself with the right people. Yes, you listen out for feedback, but surround yourself with the right people so that you can continue on this journey. And three really is being able and willing to adapt. And while your base vision doesn't change, but as business people to learn to adapt. And in so doing, what I've been hearing is you then let your leadership by example, you let your actions speak for what you believe in. And all these bring about that behavioral change, a paradigm shift in the people that you then engage with. So thank you so much for bringing us into this part of the journey. Because when we talk about plastic waste management, and also this whole thing about plastic debris, a large part of it has to deal with also consumer behavior, industry behavior, and the changes that need to come with it. And really on that note, I wanted to just ask Dr. Asari, with your research background on plastic waste management and your involvement in, really this whole part on behavioral changes, in Japan and in the areas that you've been, doing your research work, what have you observed? And would you be able to share with us, how this shift has been taking place and some important takeaways for our audience?
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, I was very impressed with three speakers, and then I want to collaborate with them. So anyway, so according to these questions, I think there are three keywords for me. So one is habit, and next one is younger generation, and the last one is ESG investment. So first, we did so many researches or surveys for consumers. And we understand that, of course, consumers choose products based on product price and performances. But it has been found that the habit is also a very important factor. Yeah, so they don't have clear reason why they choose the two products, but they decided to choose something by habit. So in fact, plastic containers and the packaging that come with us are not always necessary for us. So by clarifying such consumer awareness, business operators can also reduce containers and packaging with kind of peace of mind. So that is the one keyword, habit. And so next is younger generation. So I think it is very important for such a change in consciousness. It's particularly remarkable among the younger generation. So for example, in Japan, the junior high school students now is studying plastics in detail in science classes. So there are more than around 20 pages for only plastics. So also they have been studying SDGs since elementary school. So the younger generation certainly has the knowledge and the awareness. And younger people will be important consumers in the future. So I don't think anyone can ignore the existence. And the last one is ESG investment. So businesses are also starting to make serious efforts to become carbon neutrality or circular economy. So I believe that the spread and mainstreaming of ESG investment will also have a significant impact for businesses, especially business owners. Yeah. So I think that 3 points is a kind of summary of my list.
Thanks, Dr. Asari. The change in the habits, the shift in habit. Yes, I think it's quite obvious among in the different countries that we are in that the younger generation are definitely taking a keener interest and making their position known in terms of this part of things. And of course, like what Dr. Sari said, with the whole push towards ESG metrics, measurements and requirements, it is also causing a shift. And I guess all this has come about because your research has come about because of a lot of discussions that you've had with the multiple stakeholders. While we know that it's important, perhaps if you could share a little bit more with us, what other outcomes have come out of all these collaborative discussions that you've had? And in your view, what do you think are key elements for a successful collaborative discussion? Because it is something that I think across all Southeast Asian countries, this discussion is very much needed.
Okay. Yes, yeah. So it's for us, it's a very beginning stage for that kind of study. But we are trying to make a kind of co-creation. So no one disagrees the goal of sustainable society. So achieving this, however, will require significant social change. So when it comes to how each will lead to change, the problem become more complicated, very difficult. So therefore, our team, there to create a place for co-creation where all stakeholders in the value chain, that is manufacturers or retailers, including these convenience supermarkets or consumers, recyclers or governments or NGO and so on, can meet and discuss together. So for example, at the end of this month, we will make a co-creation workshop with more than 30 people from the whole value chain and discuss for each the plastic products, the main 40 products. So, and then we will share our opinion or knowledge, expert knowledge about the way for the possibility for each product. So in doing so, we aim to think about the proposal for the future of resource circulations while understanding each other's circumstances and the opinion and the possibilities in the future. So this is just a starting attempt that has just begun, but we are feeling the results is coming. Yeah, so I want to share kind of experiences in the future. Yeah, thank you very much for your question.
And we definitely look forward to hearing more in terms of the outcome, because I firmly believe that multi-stakeholder collaborative discussions are needed in this whole agenda of managing marine plastic debris. Yeah. Before I move on to the next round of questions, really for all the participants who have joined us, if you have questions, please feel free to drop it into the Q&A box. The icon is at the bottom of your screen. David, thank you for your 2 questions. I will address it shortly when we get into the Q&A session. When we talk about multi-stakeholder discussions, naturally the private sector has to be a very important component of the discussion. And when we talk about reducing plastic waste, for perhaps let's start with Anne this time. What do you think are the roles of the private sector in this respect? Perhaps from your experience in Thailand, if you could share with us, please.
I think private sector in Thailand is quite very enthusiastic with the plastic pollution problems. They're more aware and do a lot of campaign, but I'm afraid of the pitfall, like people try to do like upcycle products, like this one was made by the recycled plastic, those products and these products, but actually they are extracting the PET out of the loop that is actually like being recycled to the same material, but they are extracting them out to build like clothes, bag, for example. So that would be a very aware of. And I think EPR is one of the issue that's coming and gonna be released soon in Thailand's extended producer responsibility. So they're gonna have a fund to operate this, and they're gonna have a middle organization that's control the flow of materials of each brand. But I think government sector is quite delays on this issues. Like private sector really to move on, but some law or some policy was stucking them to move forward.
Thanks very much, and very interesting and important points, especially on the whole EPR. Juliana, in Malaysia, if you'd like to share your thoughts in terms of what do you think the private sector, what more can be done, from the private sector part?
Well, we all know private sectors, right? They have they really have the highest potential to make big impact. They do tend to have high environmental footprint. I feel that they do have great potential to elevate environmental improvements simply by just adopting green practices. They don't have to wait for any policies and things like that. Sure that policies can and should be put in place, but I really strongly believe that each individual organizations, each businesses must take the initiative on their own and not just wait to implement sustainable practices based on policies. There's a lot of things that they can do just by starting small, just by looking at their own operational processes and swapping out plastics for a more sustainable alternative. Another quick but effective thing that can be done is to potentially form partnerships with other stakeholders, other actors to ensure material circularity, to prolong the life cycle of a product, and ensuring that it remains in a circular economy and not to end up as waste. I also feel like the private sector should leverage off their position to influence the greater public towards sustainability. They can really use their brand name, either big corporations or SMEs, to garner support from their followers and use that to further drive the education and advocacy for plastic sustainability. Interestingly, actually just this morning I was reading an article, sustainability reporting could be a huge thing that should be practiced by the private sectors as well, especially with the SMEs. Through this, even though they may not have any systems in place or things like that, but through this, they can really identify areas that need improving, what are the sustainability gaps, and then plan for a goal and come up with strategies towards this. A lot of people, especially business owners, I feel they may think it's overwhelming, but we really should normalize starting with simple steps and ensuring that there is a sustainable roadmap in the first place.
Thanks, Juliana. Start simple, baby steps. Yeah, I like it. How about Ovi over in Indonesia?
I think there's not so many things that I could add. Like I'm agreeing with Juliana. Like there's a lot, there's a lot of potential with private sector to actually help us to create bigger impact to the public and everything like that. But maybe if I may share my experience in Indonesia. Is right now, in the past 3 years, the people or the company actually companies adopt, they approaches us from the very first 2-3 months after we launch our first product. So FMCG company, they came to our shop. They're actually very fast to respond to a new possibility where they can actually recycle their waste. So I think they have they actually wants to do it. But I think from my experience, a lot of bigger companies, FMCG companies, they lost in the policy. So sometimes the company is so big to the point that sometimes like they cannot do it because of the policy. They cannot really help because of the policy. They actually want to, but they choose the easier path because like in numbers, it actually seems higher, even though the impact might not be that good. But so I think that's what I feel like. The first customers, the most of the customers that we have are like smaller SMEs, and then like direct user. They actually like, they want to do it. They want to help with the environment. They take action just like that. Very simple. But with the bigger companies that actually have a lot of influence to the public, sometimes they're lost in the process and the regulation. So I really hope in the future, like, I think this is where I think government can play a big part, because they can actually give the last push to actually forcing them to actually do that. I think that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks very much, because I think you touched on an interesting point in terms of the policy, the policy jungle, if I may put it, internal as well as in a public domain, and you shared that really on the government part, they can also do their part to have an added push. I'm going to jump a little bit to then ask everyone off the cuff, because we've been talking about this last point where you've been sharing about government's role as well. Government has an important role to engage stakeholders. Of course, for as entrepreneurs, we will always welcome government funding to support our cause. I don't think anyone will say no to that. But when, I guess if we look beyond funding, for each of you, even for Dr. Asari, beyond funding, what kind of support or what value, what do you think the government, as well as maybe other institutions, what kind of support can they give to really, further accelerate your particular business goals in terms of really sustainability, in terms of managing of plastic waste? Maybe I would like to, since I got Anne to start first, if Anne, you could share some thoughts with us. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So like I would share my experience on reforestation. As a very beginning, it was kind of illegally because the law and policy was not yet supported. There's always like give a number to product with containers, but then not give a number of products that refill it. So but we realized that we gotta pushing it on, because like I think it's doable on the like liquid detergent stuff. On like the government sector come to us and get at more like insights, and then they have policy later after the job have been started. So I think the government sector should have a quick response on the changings of like this very rapid changing world. Many things has been coming up, but the policy was like revised every 10 years times, sort of, in the carbon credits terms as well. And other things, it's the channels of communications. I think government themselves have a lot of channels to communicate with the local people, public audience, and if they give our business on the platforms, I think it's helped a lot for the people to get understand what are we doing and what's the environmental problem that they could take part in the solution. So
I really like what you shared, especially the first part of it. I will not repeat it. But I think, yes, the speed of response and the ability to adapt to move with the industry and industry practices, and the probably more effective management of the various channels of communication. Dr. Asari, what about from your end? Any thoughts you can share?
Yeah, thank you very much for very good question. So I think, related to that answer, I think it is very important change from the local voice of consumers and residents can be utilized in the more local policies. So therefore, while it is important for national governments to talk about big issues between countries or globally, but I believe that it is also important to pay attention to changes or challenges that are rooted in local communities and the support. Of course, the money is very important, but for example, reward or make a honor is also must be very important support to cheer up the local people. So that is, based on my experiences, I think that kind of local change is quite important.
Thank you, Dr. Asari. Juliana, how about you?
I'll share a bit first about what support that we have actually been getting from the Malaysian government. I think one of the helpful one, which is basically, we've been talking about policies, right? So there has been a policy that's been set up that enables collaborative partnerships with different stakeholders. So working like bigger corporations or bigger businesses working with NGOs or social enterprises or impact-driven enterprises to create the collective impact. For example, like recognizing the impact that the third sector can create, and then ensuring support by the bigger players. So I think this one, although the policy is in place, the execution is another story, but I feel like it's a good first step towards it. I'm not sure if other countries are implementing this as well. So that's one kind of support in terms of policy. When it comes to specific project with our Beyond Bins, which is on plastic circularity through small-scale recycling, the biggest challenge we've been facing is in the local recycling infrastructure. And this is where I feel like larger scale support, especially from the government, can come in place. As in Malaysia, we actually lack the proper systems to even enable curbside recycling. So speaking of partnerships earlier, right, I've spoken to a number of different stakeholders who are actually willing to come on board and able to play their roles to enable plastics recycling and community development together as a holistic approach. But we're always met with a problem when it comes to sorting out the logistics of plastic collection. And this is where we feel like the government can step into, come into play, especially with the municipalities and things like that. So that's my standpoint.
Okay. Yeah, the logistics is always a tricky situation. Ovi, how about you over in Indonesia?
So, well, maybe a little bit because the plastic that we are recycling is the non-recyclable, quote unquote, the non-valuable one. Nobody wants it. There is no value whatsoever for it. So at the beginning, when we first launched our product, we were so confident. We thought that, wow, maybe the government will help us with this, maybe they are going to actually using our product. So that's basically the confidence we had. But in practice, in our experience in the past 3 years, I think we need to go from the grassroots, from down to up. So right now we are in a company level, the private sector is using us, but we still not yet get some sort of support from the government, because I don't know, maybe because I don't know what it is, but maybe it's because of the slow in response, slow in making a decision. Everything takes time in the government level and everything. But maybe if you ask me as a recycler or as a person who reusing plastic waste into something, I think if I may ask from the government what kind of support they can give me or give us recycler, are please give us the chance to become a supplier of whatever project you have. Because I think in Rebrix personally, we try so hard to make our product competitive in price, have laboratory testing in Singapore, in Indonesia, to make sure that our product is reliable and not have a side effect to the environment. So I think like from us, like because it's non-valuable plastic, we have tremendous amount of supplies. I think there will be no point where it's become a balance between demand and supply. Right now, we are actually in terms of sales, like as a very new company, we did quite well, but it won't be well enough comparing to the supply that we have. So I think if I can ask, what can the government do more to companies like us? It's like maybe give us a chance to become like a supplier for like the government projects, building houses, building roads, that kind of stuff, I think. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. I really appreciate the thought coming from our speakers. We talk about local recycling infrastructure, the opportunities, and I think in this case, it has to be a little bit more intentional from the public sector, at least to let you have the opportunity to say, apply and bid as one of the tenderers, right? Yeah. And also looking into things like the communications response, very valid points. And to our public sector participants who are, just tuning into this particular webinar, I think our speakers have given many valuable nuggets for consideration. We are neutral, but I think these are very valuable nuggets. Yes, I want to move on to Q&A segment. I really want to thank our speakers. And again, for participants, don't be shy. The two questions that David posed, I'm gonna throw it out because I'm not too sure from the perspective and also from the businesses of our speakers and also from Dr. Asari, whether we would be able to give you the response that you may be looking for. But let me just dive straight into it nonetheless. I think for David's first question, he's really saying a lot of emphasis is ocean plastic, right? But his point is most of the time these come actually from the rivers first before they go to the ocean. So from your respective sectors and maybe in some part of the work that you're doing, would you have come across this particular discussion where you're looking at addressing and really capturing the plastic over at the river source? I would want to open this if any one of our speakers, if you have something you'd like to share, please feel free to just chip in. Yeah. I'm looking around to see. Yes, Anne, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, river plastic was a big problem, and I think our country like Indonesia and Malaysia also face a very critical issues because it's dirt, and actually I didn't see any business running on it because it's very low income and you couldn't gain like fancy income of doing this. In Thailand, we got TerraCycle. Thailand's doing plastic, like they have collecting stations in the river to collect the plastic waste and bring them to recycle. The problem is there is no stop adding up because the households there are trying to throw the waste like regularly on the river. And the problems like later of that cost because they have no like waste collecting access by land. So that's why they like throw into the water. Our government in only some district have a boat that collecting the waste from household connecting to the river. So they have a very tiny bins outside their house. If it's not rain, it's collect properly, but if it's rain, so it's like fall off the like small area next to the house. And Besides, I think the thing that's coming up but not yet popular is the plastic credit. Like nowadays, plastic credit only require when you collect it from the oceans, from the discard plastics in the environment. But in the river, it's more like very difficult to process. When it's released to the ocean, it's much more cleaner, you know, like it's sand, it's like some shells, but it's doable. But in the river, it's dirt, it's mud, it smells with like bedding, mattress, and a lot of stuff. So one of the problem of flooding tools. And thank you, David, for raising this issue. I think it's very important and not so many people mention about it.
Thank you so much, Shen, for sharing your thoughts. Would any of our other speakers want to chip in on this particular topic?
Yeah, so can I talk a little bit?
Sure, please,
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Sari. Then after
So
that, we'll go to Ovi.
Yeah, so I think it's very, very important point. So the connection between urban areas, so not only rivers, but urban areas, rivers, and the sea are extremely important. But currently, the management is different by, for example, the river was managed by the kind of local government, and the sea is by national government, yeah, or such kind. So I think it's vertically divided, but I think that connecting this will be one of the most important policies in the future. Yeah, and recently satellite-based monitoring is also being started. So such a technology would be very effective to monitor that kind of connection academically. However, it is also important to connect the people involved in each places to achieve the, for example, we just started such kind of connection, the people connection, to achieve the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision. So yeah, in the future, so this weekend, we will start that kind of trial. So I'm very excited by this question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sari.
Can I
Ovi,
add
yes.
a little
Oh,
bit
yeah, sure.
on
And
Dr. Sari's? In Thailand, we put the cameras on the river and we use AI to learn like which branding flowing along the river, like brand auditing. So that's might interest you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I have now the Thailand, the foreign students from Thailand, and he want to focusing on that. So I want to, yeah, connect to him as well. Thank you very much.
fantastic. Ovi, you had something you wanted to share.
In maybe if I may share, like in Indonesia, we have several companies right now, as well as a very famous one like Sungai Watch. They clean the waste from the river. They stop it from ending up in the ocean. But I think like one issue that they are facing is like most of the waste they are collecting at the river are like the non-valuable waste, the one that like multi-layers, soft plastic packaging, that kind of stuff, which is like after they collect it, they don't really know where they can do with it. That's one thing. And then the second thing, I think like I would like to add this, I think it's very important. Even though we are a recycler, but we do believe that to end this plastic waste problem, we need to actually stop the waste in creating the waste. It's not like all the recycling effort, all the river trapping effort, it's more like a desperate measure to actually stopping the issue that already happened. But I think important things like we need to actually create the awareness to make people stop creating waste, like live more sustainably. So yeah, I think that's what I can add.
That is a fantastic point, and I know Juliana has got something to add on.
Yes, I mean, Ovi mentioned what I wanted to say as well. Like in Malaysia, adding on to what I mentioned also, we do have companies and organizations collecting this waste, but then they are very low value. And right now, we actually don't have the system in the country to be able to recycle single-use plastics or like this multi-layer plastics and all that. We are trying to look into it, but that's one of the things that we are, facing some roadblocks, basically. going back to what Ovi said about like creating the awareness, things like that, like, yes, we are recyclers, but the main thing to actually create sustainability is to not actually have this kind of materials. Before that also, like, of course, there are like all this research or developments that's been ongoing in that sense. But going back to what Anne mentioned, where people still litter into the ocean or into the rivers and things like that, I think one of the key things, especially in the country Malaysia, we're trying to push for also is the education towards this, trying to change people's behavior. Like, of course, yes, be more sustainable and things like that. But then, like, there are certain things where you cannot get rid of plastics entirely. What can you do with it? You know, you should recycle. How do you recycle it? How do you identify your plastics and those sort of things? And I think my key message here basically is like the education needs to start running also for the general public.
Thanks very much, Juliana, because that was a point where, personally, I fully agree with, because it is one thing to be looking at how do you collect, recycle, but really it starts with that behavior, right? And I guess I want to throw this out to our speakers. Then from this point of behavior, education is important, but what more do you think can be done, in your respective countries, based on what you've seen? Because I mean, even in Singapore, for example, right? We've been talking about recycling. There are recycle stations and bins at the base of every housing block, but yet it is the fact that you need to change mindset. So what more do you think can be done on this point? Maybe Dr. Asari, because Japan, and pretty much North Asia is deemed to have really more mature in this whole aspect. If you could share some thoughts, please, Dr. Asari.
Yeah, very difficult question. I think Japan is not leading to this question, I feel. So yeah, two weeks ago, I was in Paris and the Bulgaria, Sofia, and I was very surprised because there are so many options for consumers to reduce plastics or alternate the plastics. So before education, I think it is very important to show various options such as plastic reduction or alternatives, and also show the effect of each options. So yeah, there are so many things we have to do from academia and also the manufacturers and so on. So maybe to technical the story, maybe now so-called digital product passport become very important to trace, share that kind of information with the whole stakeholders. And then I think it is very it's costly. So I think it's better to share, not only in one country, one company, but also in Asian regions or more bigger. Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry, it's not so clear answer, but
yeah. No, but I think what you shared is important. In that it's a bit of a chicken and egg issue, right? And it's a multi-pronged approach. Perhaps just as we wrap up this point, would Anne, Ovi, or Juliana, have any additional thoughts you want to share with us?
Just back on like the question that you posed also, right?
Yeah.
Being incentivized for recycling is not a new concept. I want to also get like opinions from the other panelists, other speakers here, right? Like, is this being in your countries? Is it being like adopted by the people? And because like for us, what we find, whenever we incentivize the local, the underserved community to be able to recycle and collect plastics and just be sustainable and all that, they do tend to adopt the habit. And after a while, after a year or so, it's sort of made in recycling not for the money, but they're recycling for sustainability in general. So which is for us is a great win. But then when we're looking at the more urban kind of audience, it doesn't. So you know, like, what are your thoughts on like incentivizing?
Actually, like I give you money, this much money every kilogram, but the people who send their waste to the waste bank are people who actually, for example, the waste pickers, or like the people at the more they need the money from the waste, something like that. So yeah, I'm not sure that's
very interesting. And yes,
I would like to give an example of my own sister. My sister lives in Japan and she do like expert in waste segregation in Japan. But when she returned to Thailand, she didn't segregate waste. Because of what? Because of there is no facilities and no trust. I think that's very important. Like people, when we told them to do a waste segregation at home, and the government have only one bin that dump everything together. So there is no supporting facility of what they are doing. And the second thing, like there is no trust that these waste will be segregated. And recently there is a very, I would say it's successful campaigns of Bangkok Metropolitans. We have a very, we have a new waste collecting car, and we have a cute sign like, we not dump all together, we not dump all together, we not dump all together, and running around. And people, we didn't give an incentive, but people more trust in the government. They will segregate at the ends of the, at the dump site. So I think trust and facilities would help a lot.
thank you so much to all four of you. You know, for our participants, many things have been shared today. I would encourage you, you know, when the video recording is out, get hold of it, go through this again, you know, just to hear, you know, all the little nuggets that have been shared this afternoon. And you know, in the Q&A box, I don't know whether Ovi managed to see it. Business is coming your way already. Someone's already interested. I would also then encourage our participants, you know, do connect with our speakers. They are on LinkedIn. You know, you can connect with them. If not, you can just touch base with either the area ESI Knowledge Lab or the Regional Knowledge Center for Marine Plastic Debris. It's been fantastic this afternoon hearing from our speakers. And, you know, as we bring this to a close, I just want to then invite Dr. Julia Aman-Massan, who is the Strategy and Partnership Director from ERIA, where, you know, she works closely with policymakers and regional global organizations involved in the ASEAN process of socio-economic integration. And she's also currently leading the ESI Knowledge Lab team effort. And I just want to invite her to just give us a closing remark. So Julia, over to you.
Thank you very much, TJ, and thanks to all speakers and participants, and in particular, our colleagues from the Center for Marine Plastic Debris. I really enjoyed this collaboration, and I hope this is just the first one of many. I also really enjoyed the conversation. I learned a lot, as I always do, through these webinars. It's always fantastic to hear the point of view of experts and entrepreneurs. So many thanks for your time, to all of you for sharing your remarks and your thoughts. Just very briefly, because I know that it's time to close, everybody's very busy. I think it was very interesting, first of all, to hear the point of view of young entrepreneurs about the future and future generations. I really think that, especially in Southeast Asia, I know that some countries are starting to face some aging population issues. But overall, it's still a young region where millennials, Gen Z, entrepreneurs and consumers can really be an important driver of the green transformation. So this demographic factor is very, very important to keep in mind when looking at the region. And this is why providing education and skills to this cohort of the population in ASEAN is absolutely key. And as TJ mentioned, please be encouraged to share the recording when available, because I feel that the discussion shared also provided some very important educational elements into the discussion about this very pressing issue of plastics. Then I think what the discussion also clearly showed is the leading role that entrepreneurship has to play when we are discussing the issue of going green and circular economy and plastic reduction and recycling. Entrepreneurs and new business model can really offer a very important solution to this pressing global challenge. And this is why it's always very, very important also for policymakers to hear from entrepreneurs and innovators. We are desperately in need for innovations for the green transformation. Entrepreneurs, and not only large and very well-established entrepreneurs, also startuppers and smaller companies, they need to be part of the conversation because they have a lot of interesting ideas to offer. We know that being an entrepreneur is never easy, especially when you're a startup. The chances, there are high chances not to succeed, especially if it's the first time that an entrepreneur is creating her or his own business. But it's very, very important for also people like us working in international organizations, research institutions, and governments to hear the point of view of young and emerging entrepreneurs, to hear, what are the challenges for governments and other stakeholders to remove these challenges and facilitate, an easier process, especially for entrepreneurs engaged in battles to solve very pressing challenges like the one we were discussing today. And I also think that, as TJ also mentioned already, and it's emerged clearly from the conversation, that it's very important to have occasions where the dialogue is open and alive across multi-type of stakeholders. When we talk about innovation for solving challenges like the recycling and circular economy, but also it's important for entrepreneurs to be in touch with the educational institution. I think that the issue of education and skills was mentioned multiple times in this conversation. Education at school, we heard the example from Japan and other ASEAN countries, is something that should start as early as possible when we're talking about recycling plastic, so that the maximum number of people can be aware of the possibility to recycle, but also to reducing and stop using plastics, as Ovi and other speakers very, very well mentioned. So it's about recycling, but it's also about changing our behaviors as consumers. And all of us, even if we're doing something small, we have a role to play. But also education of everybody in the population, from younger consumers to older consumers. It's something that also Anne and Juliana mentioned. So it's really important that, especially when entrepreneurs are collectively doing actions to solve these very pressing issues, they are in touch and manage to disseminate their messages with a much broader audience of stakeholders. And this is why I think the conversation today was also very important. And finally, my last point, it's the one about government procurement. It was already highlighted, I think, in the Q&A session. This is something also very important. Governments in Southeast Asia and around the world, should perhaps find a way to use procurement, use their purchases to promote certain types of business models. And this is very important on one hand, because they are, in a sense, providing the market for green businesses to succeed and become more sustainable. I'm not talking about the green sustainability, I'm talking about their financial sustainability. But it's also very important to signal the quality of a business model, a product, or a service often MSMEs, you know, they need to grow, they need to do marketing, they need to make themselves aware. And this is valid for, you know, every small businesses around the world. Having the government as a purchaser, it's typically seen as an important quality stamp, you know, because then these companies can go around and say, okay, I mean, I have very good customers, very big customers, leading customers. So this is something that some governments we know are already starting and doing, but perhaps, you know, it's important to keep in mind that governments not only have the responsibility to push the green transformation through policy, but it's also something that they can do through public procurement. And we heard examples, very interesting example around that even today. I think it's time for me to stop talking. I just would like to thank once again IRIA colleagues, all participants, and of course, a special thanks to our fantastic speakers today, Dr. Azari, Ovi, Juliana, and Anne. I learned a lot from you. I really hope we can stay in touch because, you know, we will continue to work on these issues. So I really hope this is just the beginning of the conversation. Thank you very much.
So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our speakers, you know, and stay in touch because, you know, this is probably the start of a, you know, something greater that's going to be happening in the days ahead. So on that note, you know, just want to thank you for just really being with us this afternoon, and we will close it off right here. So have a great evening. Thank you. Bye.